sewage cannot be dumped into streams, rivers, and lakes without endangering their health and ultimately the environment. Normal raw sewage consists of the following substances: suspended solids, E. coli, and other bacteria, that being the most prevalent; organic matter, which is measured generally by a unit known as the biological oxygen demand; and inorganic matter such as phosphate, ammonia, and nitrates. As a consequence, sewage nowadays must be treated to remove most of these substances. And in Zone 3 and 4, this is done currently by means of septic systems. With a call for evidence that groundwater is being adversely impacted by septic systems in Zone 3, Golder Associates was contracted by the municipality to install monitor wells and on a monthly basis test the groundwater for contaminants. In October of 2009, the results were presented at a second Public Information Center by Golder representative. There was no mention of the most common sewage pollutants I have discussed above. As it turns out, suspended solids, E. coli, and biological oxygen demand were mostly below detectable levels in any of the monitor wells. The levels of both phosphate and ammonia nitrogen were usually far below acceptable values. However, nitrates were detected at levels above a control well that was used in the pinery, and this generated some concern by the municipality. The Canadian and Ontario drinking water regulations specify that the level of nitrate must not exceed 10 parts per million. Most wells had concentration of nitrates in about the 2 to 3 part per million range. The highest nitrate concentration was found at 5.8 parts per million in a well in Southcott. This is where the difference in opinion has occurred in interpretation. In a technical memorandum from Mr. Philip Bedell of Golder Associates, it is stated, there is very clear evidence that the groundwater is being adversely impacted by septic systems. However, he did not expand upon what exactly adverse impact meant. I agree that nitrate was at elevated levels, but were far less than the maximum allowed in drinking water. As a consequence, Mr. Byrne, the Chief Administrative Officer of Lambton Shores, sought to get clarification on this issue of adverse impact of observed nitrate levels by requesting the opinions from 3 other university professors. Okay, can we flip to the next slide here? Are you able to read these? There's too much light coming in here. Can you see them in the back? Well, I'll read the statements anyways. The first outside consultant was Dr. Brian Branfern from the University of Western Ontario, who wrote, data demonstrates the clear impact of septic system contamination from the shallow groundwater systems in Zone 3. Dr. Will Robertson from the University of Waterloo stated that the mean nitrogen levels from monitor wells 1 through 12 range from 1.3 to 5.8 milligrams per liter of parts per million. These levels are typical for shallow groundwater in similar sandy terrain throughout southern Ontario. Both Kitchener-Waterloo and Woodstock use potable water with nitrates in the same range as found in the Grand Bend aquifer. And finally, Dr. Claire Robinson of the University of Western Ontario added, it is not possible to evaluate the effect of the high groundwater nitrate or phosphorus on near-shore lake water quality or the implications for aquatic ecosystem health. Thus, the issue is at a stalemate. The groundwater testing did indicate some hot spots that should be addressed, but does the whole area have to be treated as a source of pollution to require sewers? Are there more effective and less costly alternatives? I hope we will provide you some options on this question. The committee also consulted 3 other documents. First is the provincial policy statement on municipal services. The policy statement is very flexible in its directive, allowing municipalities to choose the most effective solution to their own circumstances. Since zones 3 and 4 are still considered a rural area by having RR in their postal designation, this gives the municipality more options in selecting sewer services. From the Ministry of the Environment, we examined the Asavo Bayfield Source Protection Area Assessment Report of May 30th, 2011, which concluded, Lambton Shores, there is no known condition, issues, significant risks, or threats to the Lake Huron primary water supply. The Canadian Council of Ministers of the Environment, which is an advisory body of all ministers in Canada that seeks to provide information to individual provinces, have established that for surface waters, not groundwater, the levels of nitrate should not exceed 2.93 parts per million for the protection of aquatic species. The data that Boulder collected showed that that level was far exceeded many, many times from Park Hill Creek, which empties into Lake Huron. Next slide. And finally, we looked at the Ministry of the Environment's regulation concerning water quality objectives. These are known as provincial water quality objectives and are numerical values for surface water criteria. They are applicable to all waters of the province and in specific instances when groundwater is discharged to surface water. PWQO may also be applied to groundwater. The Ministry of the Environment currently do not have any limits on nitrate levels in surface waters. However, the Ontario drinking water standards for nitrate is still 10 milligrams per liter or 10 parts per million. Most hydrologists consider the drinking water standard as a benchmark for estimating groundwater impact. That concludes my presentation on topic number 1. I will now continue on with topic 2, which is the cost-benefit analysis of the SDF and collection systems. And Mr. Ernie Lewis will present that.
Thank you, Carl. The first thing I wanted to, let me just adjust this for a minute. Thanks. Everybody hear me all right? Okay. First thing I wanted to address is the natural history of the area, just briefly. We live in a very unique landscape, and this landscape offers us a wonderful opportunity to experience the natural setting which has evolved here in the dune and Carolinian woodlands. We've seen over the years the area develop as an agricultural area, primarily in the early years. Alterations had been done to the landscape to create that, with the cut at Grand Bend and Port Franks in drainage of the area, and that in itself changed our landscape. Over the